Hello, and welcome back to the Lifeboat Live with me, absolutely Arian. And I am so excited to get into tonight's topic. It's not a very happy topic, but at the same time, it's very informative and will just help you to kind of stay alert, just and be mindful of just your everyday interactions and just new relationships that you may be trying to build. So, um, I am not going to be long before you today, or tonight rather. But before we get into it, I would just like to say, if you are watching here on Facebook right now live, welcome. I would love to know who you are, where you're watching from. So just please go ahead and leave a comment, send up some hearts, and make sure that you share this, because I promise you tonight, the information that I'm about to share is not only just from experience that I have had myself, but also just reading and knowledge that I've acquired along life's journey. That I want to share with you guys. Hey, Ashley. Ashley's in the house. Hey, friend. um, Sorry, I'm laughing because we had a little discussion about hey, friend earlier, but bless you. So if you are watching on YouTube, well, welcome as well. I will also be able to see your comments. Make sure that you hit the subscribe button so that you are just a part of the Lifeboat family, and also hit the bell for notifications so that you are notified every time I go live or that there's a video available. If you are watching on the playback, well, welcome. We're no longer here, but I always come back to read your comments, so feel free to leave a comment and I'll definitely come back and look at it. So thank you so much for joining tonight. Tonight we are talking about something that I have had to learn through experience, okay? It's called love bombing. Now, a lot of people have not even might know what love bombing is in terms of experiencing it, but not knowing the term itself. So I'm going to get into it real quick, and I'm going to let you know a little bit about what love bombing is, right? So as you know, here on the Lifeboat, I love a good working definition so that we're all on the same page as to what I'm talking about. So what is love bombing? Well, the definition of it is the action or practice of lavishing someone with attention or affection, especially in order to influence or manipulate them. Okay? So love bombing might sound like a real ooh, I'm being love bombed. Like it's a good thing. It's not a good thing to be love bombed. Okay? Let's just get that right on the table right now. It's not a good thing to be love bombed, and I'm going to tell you why. So love bombing can happen in platonic relationships. Love bombing can happen, I would say more specifically, in romantic relationships, but also even in religious relationships, like as in leadership, or people who are in leadership or head over you. So love bombing, tonight anyways, I'll mostly be focusing on the romantic type. And also you should know that typically the type of person to practice love bombing are narcissists. Okay. And I know narcissist is a very big buzzword nowadays. Everyone says narcissist, everything is narcissistic. But narcissism is actually a personality disorder that, people have, that, it's sometimes people have experienced trauma early on in their childhood, and or have been heavily neglected, and whatever happened to them in that time in their life, they are stuck there emotionally, right? They haven't evolved from that. So you can be 50 years old and still be stuck in your emotional state of a 10-year-old. You can be 40 years old and still stuck in the emotional state of a 7-year-old. And so what makes them narcissistic is that they are constantly trying to protect themselves. They're constantly trying to make other people feel the way they felt, or that other people have made them feel. It's a very dark, sinister disorder. It's on the border of sociopath or psychopath. It's right on the border there, but there are different types of narcissists. There's malignant narcissists. There's just all kinds, but we're not going to get into that too much tonight. I am going to talk about narcissism a lot in the future, but right now tonight we are talking about specifically love bombing. Okay, so I also want to make this disclaimer early on that not everyone who does the things that I'm about to mention are narcissistic. However, you normally can feel like certain things aren't adding up and something is off in a narcissistic type relationship. Okay, so to put it into context, when you are experiencing a love bomb, this will begin in the very beginning of dating, or the very beginning of the newfound relationship that you have with a person. Okay, you are sometimes just 2 weeks in and or sometimes even a month in, and this is like just really the getting to know them phase, and they start to present you with a lot of affection and love very, very, very fast, very early on. And people with narcissistic personalities can be very charming, be very charismatic at first. They come off very confident and seem like they are like kind of a larger than life kind of personalities. They will lay it on very early, very thick in the beginning, the pursuit and the wooing of you, right? So here is one of the symptoms of love bombing, or I should say the experiences you may have if somebody is love bombing you, right? And that is lavish gifts. Now, you have to keep in mind as I'm speaking, I am talking about somebody, this is happening in a very early stage of getting to know one. I'm talking about in a couple of days, in a week, 2 weeks, up until like a month or two even of getting to know this person, right? Narcissists normally will have a mask on for the first few months of getting to know them. They seem like the perfect person. They are the Prince Charming that you've ever, or Princess Charming, whatever, that you've ever met in your life, right? And sometimes they will lavish you with gifts. So it can involve just over the top gestures, such as sending you inappropriate gifts to your job, or like dozens of bouquets of flowers, for example, or just buying expensive tickets to take you on vacation, or buying you jewelry, and just going over the top very, very early on in the relationship. Hey Gladys, thank you for joining. I hope you guys are hitting share, because this here right now, I find that especially in the social media era, it's just a breeding ground for narcissists, right? And narcissism. And it's almost as if narcissism is glorified nowadays, right? People who are just superficial and just like really just very topical about everything. And so, especially on social media, this is where because narcissists are really just predators, and they will, especially when it comes to social media, that is their playing ground. This is where they do most of their work, most of their preying on people, right? So, like I said, they buy you expensive gifts, plane tickets, take you on vacation, on trips, buy you jewelry, just over the top, like sending dozens of flowers. This has happened to me, and I'm speaking from someone who's experienced this, where like, you get like, they just kind of like bombard you with gifts very early on. And, you might say, Arian, what's wrong with that? They see the value in me. I'm a good person. I'm a good partner, and they want to spoil me. And yes, you may be all of those things. And I thought the same thing too, once, myself, but all this can seem harmless. But the point of it all is to manipulate you into thinking that you owe them something eventually. So most often, love bombing is done by narcissists, and the intent is to draw you in by gaining control, right? All these grand gestures are to give the illusion of commitment and that they're making a serious investment into you. But that is not what is happening. They are laying it on thick and heavy early on in order to establish control, in order to establish that they have you, they've captured you, and that you also feel like you, like I said, you owe them something at this point because they've done so much for you, right? So another thing that you will find in love bombing is that you they will, in the very beginning, they will bombard you with phone calls and text messages, and you'll think, oh my goodness, this person is so committed to me and so in love with me, or so like infatuated with me that they just want to spend all their time with me. And now this one is can be a little tricky because in the beginning of dating, it's normal for people to communicate with each other very often, right? It's new, it's fresh, and you're really excited because you found this very interesting person that you want to know more about. And so yes, it's very exciting, and of course you're going to want to speak to that person often. So this one is very hard to pick up, but it can be a red flag. However, you'll only realize that it's a red flag once you get into what is called the devaluing or the discarding phase of the relationship. And I'm going to talk about these in another Lifeboat session, right? Because there is a cycle with narcissists that they go through when they are pursuing or they're preying on someone. It starts off with love bombing, this is where they're capturing your mind, capturing your heart, capturing your emotions. And when they go through this phase or this part of the cycle, they seem like the most ideal people, right? And once they've caught you and they feel like they've have you on the hook and they start to reel you in, they kind of get bored of the game. They get bored of the chase. And so they eventually start to look for a new toy, because for you, to them, you are just supply. You are supplying some sort of ego stroke. You're supplying some sort of esteem for them. You're supplying something that is lacking in them. You are not even a person. You are just like food or like a toy, you know what I mean? That can be discarded once they're bored with you. You are not a person to them, you know? And so when you're going through the phases or the cycles, but today, as I said, we're focusing on love bombing. You start with love bombing. And then once they get bored of you, they start to nitpick at you, right? And that's when you start getting to the devaluing stage, where they start to find things that are wrong with you and just kind of start to try to dismantle you, and dismantle your self-esteem. And this is why it's very, very dangerous, because you can be so confused at this point because you just experience this very intoxicating, like obsessive love bombing phase. And then you go through this devaluing stage where they start to tell you things are wrong with you, and you start to look at yourself like, shoot, is there something wrong with me? Am I all these things that this person's saying about me because they were so fabulous and so great to me for the first like 3 to 4 months of our relationship, right? And so you're going to be confused in the devaluing stage, and then that's when they start to drop like these little baits to engage you in arguments and fights, right? And this is because they're getting ready to discard of you because they've found new supply. Because you, like I said, you're a toy that they've used now. They're bored of you because they've kind of won. They've won the game. It's like a video game. They've won the game, and now they want a new one. And so, like I said, narcissists are like children. They're stuck in the emotional and mental state of a child. And so, like children get bored of toys and they want another one, and they always want. That is what it's basically that in a grown person's body, right? So they move on to the next thing. And so when they start to discard you, it's because now you're no longer fun to them anymore, and they put you aside and they go on to the next thing, right? And why it's called the narcissistic cycle is because eventually they cycle back, and they kind of want to come back and now play with that old toy, and they start the love bombing again. And so they draw you in with apologies and all the grand gestures again, and you're like, wow, we're back on, we're good, we're better than ever. Then starts the devaluing, then starts the discarding. So it's a very, very toxic cycle. It's a toxic relationship. But I just wanted to give you a little bit of background so you understand what phase we're in and why love bombing is super duper dangerous and why you have to be alert in this part of the cycle. Okay, these are things to look out for. Andrea Renee says this is true information. Yup. You are speaking to someone who not only has just done a lot of research about narcissism, but has experienced it as well, and so I've experienced this in friendships, I've experienced this in more romantic relationships, and therefore I again have set out to share my life lessons. This is what the Lifeboat is about. Share my life lessons so that you do not have to go through the same thing. And if you are going through the same thing, you can see that you're not alone. And I'm going to show you how to get out. Okay? So here we go. Like, this is why I said that the phone calls and the text messages are in this love bombing phase. You're going to get a whole lot of it, and it's really hard to pick up on, because I said in a normal relationship, this is normal as well, that you speak to someone very often, you get a lot of calls, you're excited to speak with them, but you're going to see how this changes when you go into the devaluing stage, right? All of a sudden they're going to be too busy for you, and they're going to act like you're crazy and needy and want too much from them, right? But while that is happening, you're getting all the text messages and all the attention and all the time. You're also getting all the compliments and the affirmations, and it's very superficial, right? And we all want to be loved and appreciated and feel seen and affirmed by someone that we like, or that we feel that we want to be with, or that we want to be friends with, or we want to be in a romantic relationship with, or just somebody that we look up to, right? And I don't know about you, but it makes me uncomfortable when someone who barely knows me, again, keep in mind the context of this. You've only known this person for like a couple of weeks, a few weeks to a month, maybe 2 months. And so you barely know this person, for them to be constantly telling you how amazing they think you are, and how they think that, you're the best thing since sliced bread. And I feel like, for me, I feel like, get to know me and see me go through some stuff. And I'm not saying that you can't compliment me in the beginning of dating, but there's just certain things that are kind of alarming, when they're constantly affirming you and complimenting you. When they say things like, I love everything about you. What do you love about me? I love everything about you. Or I've never met anyone like you. You're just so amazing. Or, you're the only person I want to spend my time with, because you're the only person that gets me. And it's just over the top things to say and claim that they feel about a person that they've only known for a few weeks. You do not know me. You do not know me to be able to make such strong statements about who you think I am, right? So these things may seem harmless, but like I said, consider the context. Consider the context, the time. Have they had enough experience with you? Have they had a disagreement with you? Have they had, just enough time with you in general to be able to make such strong statements about who they think you are? It kind of shows you a little bit about just their decision making and their processing, and just their maturity level. Because, like I said, and there's a scripture in Ecclesiastes that says that a wise man discerneth both timing and judgment, right? Timing and judgment, meaning somebody who is wise, somebody who is mature, somebody who knows how to manage relationship will know that there's a time for everything. There's a time for everything, and there's a certain way to go about it. Right? And even if you feel certain things that you're feeling on a person, it's probably not wise in the first 2 weeks of getting to know someone to make such strong statements that, I don't want to spend the rest, I want to spend the rest of my life with you. Sure, you might feel that way, but you know that person enough to even make that kind of statement. And furthermore, to say it aloud, right? That could be just very dangerous even for you as a person. But anyone who says those things to you, I would say red flag, slow down, and just take your time and just, take in what's happening. So what you will also find in the love bombing phase is that you'll hear things like, you're the one, really early on. Now, this is one of the biggest red flags in love bombing. Again, I want to make sure that I'm leaving this in context. Remember, you have not known this person very long. we're speaking a couple of weeks to maybe a month or two, right? In the getting to know you phase. And they may say things like, I really believe God brought you into my life because we're meant for each other. Or they may say something like, we were born to be together. Or, it's fate that we met. Or, you understand me more than anyone I've ever met. You bring such peace to my life, and we're soulmates, right? A love bomber might pressure you into even rushing things and making big plans for the future. And this is what they call future faking, right? So they'll mention things like marriage or moving in together, or when you've only known each other for like a short while, they'll want to take you house hunting, ring shopping, baby name talk. And all of this is happening so quickly, and a lot of us will equate this to like, well, he's a grown man, he knows exactly what he wants, he should know what he wants because he's a grown man, and I'm a catch. So and this is stroking at your ego, and so your ego is being inflated, and you're like, yes, like, of course I'm a catch, of course he wants to marry me. He's only known you for a few weeks, he's only known you for a month, 2 months. And one would say, well, yeah, he should know pretty early on because he's an experienced, he's a grown man. But hello, a wise man discerneth both timing and judgment. With such a big decision like marriage and future and house hunting and all that kind of stuff, and planning for the future, those things need to be done and to be kind of understood with time and with experience with that person, But the point of getting this in super duper early, why a narcissist would do something like this super early in this, of course, love bombing stage, is because it's meant to their actions are meant to keep you off kilter, right? It's meant to keep you unbalanced. It's meant to keep you confused. It's meant to keep you kind of have your head up in the clouds, that you don't notice that you're being manipulated and about to be taken for a really dark ride. It's literally meant to keep your heads in the clouds and so intoxicated by what's going on that you don't realize it's kind of like a magic trick, right? They have you focused over here, right? While they're doing things over there. And so they're doing all this love bombing, showing you all these great things and promises and what we call future faking you, so that you believe that they are serious. Meanwhile, you don't know that they are getting ready to bring you into the next stage really soon, which is now to play with you like a toy and play with your emotions and start to dismantle your self-esteem, start to dismantle your self-worth, start to gaslight you and make you believe that, to make you doubt your own reality. And it's a really dark mind manipulating game that they play with you, which is very, very dangerous to your psyche, to your mental health. It's going to provoke anxiety, sometimes even depression, because they start to, like I said, devalue you, meaning that they start to play with how you feel about yourself, what you think about yourself. It's a really, really, really dark. Narcissism or dealing with a narcissist, being in a relationship, being friends with a narcissist is such a sinister and just like really dark, demonic experience. You know what I mean? It's just one of those things where this is why I am talking about this tonight, because if you know that you are experiencing these things, I'm telling you, red flags, right? Like I said, it can be very intoxicating. You really will have to stop and ask yourself, is this real? Is this too good to be true? And the truth of the matter is, it is. Trust your gut. How many times do we ignore our intuition and what our gut is telling us about someone, right? We always kind of push past what our gut is saying and run into danger. But be intentional about being mindful. Be present in each moment and pay attention to what is happening around you, what is being said to you, what is being done. Are the actions matching up with the words? Ask a lot of questions, right? I was talking to a friend actually, I think, yeah, it was Ashley. If you're still here, Ashley, I was talking to her about keeping a dating journal, right? And this is something that we were just talking about. And I was saying to her, like, I think in the future I'm gonna keep a dating journal and write down the things that I like and things that gave me kind of pause in conversations while I'm dating someone, while I'm getting to know someone, while I'm, in that phase of the first few months of getting to know them, right? And I will do this because keeping a journal like this is to go back and read it when you have time outside of the presence of that person. You can reflect soberly on what is happening, right? So like write things that made you go write those things down, but write also the things that made you go wow, write them both down so that you can kind of balance it out and see what's happening. For even conversations about their past relationships, pay attention to that. Ask questions like, if you ask them like, what happened in your last relationship, or why, why are you not together, or this and that, or even if they bring up their exes, if you realize that there's a pattern that all of their exes are horrible people and they've been the victim in every situation, and they have like a woe is me story every time, red flag. Okay? Red flag. And what that's showing you is that they lack consciousness, they lack self-reflectiveness, like they're not a self-reflective person, and um someone, and they're just somebody that's not able to be accountable for their actions. Okay? And they're obviously not going to be honest about their contribution to the deterioration of their situation or their relationships. And this is very dangerous. Let me tell you, I know, for example, like, I was talking to someone who, every time they spoke about their ex, it was always that they were super insecure. There was always them that was the issue. They made them feel some type of way, or they did this, they did that. And I asked them specifically, I said, well, how do you feel what did you contribute to the relationship? What do you think you did that contributed to maybe them feeling insecure? Or did you do anything that maybe you feel like da 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 da? Nah, that wasn't me. It was their past trauma that they brought into the relationship with me. Okay. What about your ex from before? Da 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 da. And if every time they're never the issue, pay attention to that. That is a major, major, major telling thing about that person. Okay. Um, so I know that this might sound like, well, Arian, um, it's easier said than done. How would I know, that they're a narcissist? They could just be just really, excited to know me, and they just can be sure. We've heard love stories of people meeting, getting married 2 months later or 2 weeks later, and they're now together for 50 years. Okay, that percentage of people who get married who've only known each other for a month or 2 or 3 months that actually work is so small, it's so minute that it's not even relevant, right? The rarity of that situation is just so, it's just so like not even a real thing. It's so risky to make that kind of decision and to give. Another thing I want to make sure that I say, that just kind of popped into my mind, is that in this love bombing stage, okay, in this love bombing stage, in the first few months of getting to know someone, it is important, it is imperative to not give people your weaknesses. Do not give them information about your trauma. Do not give them information about your vulnerabilities, especially when you're dealing with a narcissist, okay? When you're dealing with a narcissist and they are, wanting to, they're seemingly interested in your past relationships and what happened there and why did it end and what did he do to you. I promise you, it's not because they want to get to know you. Like, I heard Dr. Ramani She is Dr. Ramani is a psychologist. She is a sorry, I'm looking for something on my phone here. A quote that she said that just kind of I loved so much. Where is it? Yes, here it is. So, um, Dr. Ramani is a doctor in psychology, and she specializes in narcissism, and she talks a lot about narcissism. Um, and she said, "Do not serve up your pain to someone who is going to who's going to turn them into bullets." Okay, when narcissists ask you about your trauma and your vulnerabilities, especially early on in your relationship, it's not because they want to know what triggers you or what's gonna hurt you and what to avoid. No, they're asking you because they're going to use it as a weapon against you later. And I know it sounds so crazy and it sounds so evil, and how could that be? Narcissists are evil people. They are. And so they are that you are going to see it happen where you're going to tell them things that maybe your ex did to you, or things that happened to you that in your trauma, and then in your devaluing stage, they're going to use that information you gave them to slap you with it. Okay, they're going to use that to demean you, to devalue you. They're going to say, you see, that's why your ex did da 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 da, or oh, you could take that from your ex but you can't take that from me, or you see, no, you see, this is why you're just, or if you call them out on their crap, you're just insecure because if you're not over what your ex obviously did to you. They'll throw those things back in your face. It's so important. I'm telling you right now, when you're first getting to know someone, it is important to not give them your trauma and and of course in relationships you have to be vulnerable, but timing and when to be vulnerable is important. Get to know that person, get to know who they are, get to see if they're consistent, get to see if they're going to stick around, get to see how they talk about other people, how they behave around other people, how they talk about their exes, how they talk about other people in their lives. Are they always the victim? Because I'm telling you, people like that will take it. Happened to me recently, actually, where a friend of mine, I did something to out of my heart to help them, and I was so emotional in the moment that as I was helping them, I was crying because I just felt so, I felt so touched by their situation and wanted to help them. Well, I don't even want to go into the very big details, but once I had to then turn around and say, like, hey, so and so, they took that moment of vulnerability and took it to slap me in my face with it, and were like, oh, and that's why you were crying, da 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 da. And like, you know what I mean? And so that's what narcissists will do. They will use your weak moments against you and be like, oh, you're such a baby, look at you go crying. That kind of stuff is what they'll do with your weaknesses. So be very guarded, be very strategic, and be very wise about when you share your trauma, your vulnerabilities with people, especially in the beginning. If they're very pushy, here's the thing: if they're very pushy and they act like they're upset because you're not ready to share certain things with them, and they keep asking you to cross your boundaries, and they're not patient and waiting, red flag. If somebody wants to push you and push you and push you earlier on, especially when it's very early on in the relationship, to tell them your deepest, darkest secrets, red flag. Red flag. What have they done to earn your trust? Trust is earned. You don't just give people trust. You don't just give people that kind of access to you. They earn that. They get that with time. And trust me, I know this sounds like, oh, Arian, like, I had to learn this myself. And I had to learn it the hard way. I had to learn it through betrayal. I had to learn it by being lied to. I had to learn it by being gaslighted. I had to learn it through just my own, experiences of just oversharing and giving people literally the weapons to kind of to tear me down with later on. Um, and so this is really to just show you guys, and to show anyone who's watching. And I hope that you guys are sharing this, because love bombing is a thing, guys. It's a thing. People will finesse you to try to manipulate you, and get you all in so that they can just it's for their own agenda that you don't know yet. Um, so just be on guard, be aware, just be aware. Watch what's going on around you, listen to what they're saying, be mindful, pay attention to the red flags, pay attention to patterns, because the faster you disconnect and get away, especially from a narcissistic relationship, the better for you, because they can keep you in this cycle for years and years and years. And here's the problem with it: because in the first 3 to 4 months of that relationship, they were literally your dream person, because you fed them the information on what your dream. You think that a question like, so what kind of woman are you looking for, or what kind of man are you looking for, that question could seem so simple, but you can be handing them the playbook on how to play you, because you're letting them know who you want them to be. Oh, I'm looking for a man who is, kind, who's generous, who is loving, who will do this, da da da. You've just given them all the ways to win you over. You've given them the strategy, the playbook, the blueprint to on how to play you. Don't ever, in the beginning, you don't ever share those information. You just say, well, um, I'm just looking to get to know somebody and see what, how we can gel together. Be very topical, be very vague, be very intentional about not giving your person too much information too soon. Okay. um so yeah, I know that this is, just so seems like it could be just so like, oh, you're being a little too harsh, but I promise you, it's better to be safe than sorry. It's better to be safe than sorry. Do not give people the playbook on how to play you. Be smart, be intentional. And I know that it sounds easier said than done, but you have to keep your head on a swivel. You really do these days, because there are so many predators out here, and they have especially narcissists. They have so much access to you because of social media these days. They can just throw out a net, and whatever they catch is what they catch, and they'll reel you in and play you like a fiddle. So yeah, love bombing. It's a real thing. I hope you guys have shared this. I hope you guys are hitting share on that button, because there's so many people experiencing this and don't know what they're going through. The first time that I encountered a narcissist, I had no idea what was happening to me. I had no idea that I was being taken through a cycle of just like devaluing and dismantling my self-esteem, dismantling my self-worth, dismantling my value, or my personal sense of value. All of that was being like chopped down, and I had no idea. I didn't, I thought narcissism was just somebody who was just really into themselves and self-absorbed. I didn't realize how dark and sinister and demonic it actually that person can be. And so it's just really important to just really stay on. Keep your eyes open, keep your ears open, and just make sure that you are being mindful at all times. So I don't know if you guys have any questions about it, or anything that you might be going through that you'd be like, am I being love bombed, or whatever you want to say in the comments. I'll stay on for a few more minutes just to answer any questions. Who's on here now? I see people are kind of coming in. It's fluctuating in and out. Let me know who's watching, where you're watching from. I would love to be able to interact with you. Don't be weird. Don't just stay in the numbers and don't say hey. Nobody has any questions? Oh, sometimes too you can't send anything through if you haven't accepted the little the little notification from StreamYard. But Yanori says, I learned so much tonight. Oh, well, I'm glad you did. Thank you so much, first of all, for joining tonight. You've been so consistent and faithful. I'm glad that you learned so much tonight. Listen, I had to learn it all the very hard way. Let me tell you. Nessa says, "Hey sis, I'm using my iPad." Okay. I guess that you're maybe having difficulty. It's all right though. I'm glad that you were able to watch, Nesta. Glad that hopefully you got some good information on here as well, because hey, love bombing is a real thing. Narcissism is a real dark thing that, listen, if you're not careful, they will keep you in that cycle of love bombing. They'll love bomb you, future fake you, which is all the promises of future promises of marriage, of family, of this and that, which is never gonna happen, or which will never happen, or and then they'll devalue you because it's now that they're bored of you, they want a new toy, and then they'll get ready to discard you like you are yesterday's trash once they found a new toy to go play with. They'll put you away, throw you back in the toy box, play with their new toy. They get bored of that toy, circle right back to their toy box. Which one do I want to play with again? A lot of the times you'll realize that narcissists keep their exes in their lives. They always have their exes nearby because they always want their old toys around so that they can pull them back out when they want to play with them again. And so they keep them in that cycle. Love bombing, future faking, devaluing, discarding. Love, and then they'll come back again. Love bomb you, future fake you, devalue, discard. And it keeps happening until you decide to walk away. And when you decide to walk away, woo, the narcissist will walk away from you every single time, and it means nothing to them. But the minute you decide to walk away from them, be prepared for a fight. Be prepared for a fight. I'll tell you what happened to me once I decided to cut my narcissist off. I had to block them on everything. Block phone number, block Instagram, block Facebook, block email, block everything. And they started creating Google numbers to stalk me, call me from different numbers, and I'll block that number, they'd create a new one, block that number, create a new one. Let me tell you, send letters to everything in order to get in contact with me. It can be very dangerous. And some people, it can even get violent. And so you have to be very strategic. I would suggest anybody who feels that they're in a narcissistic relationship, you need to, Nesta says, I can't share, don't know how to access my contacts from here. Okay, that's no problem, Nesta. You can always do it later on your phone when you have a chance. Ashley says, woo, crazy, absolutely nuts. Do you hear me? It was a really scary situation. And in some instances, you have to get a restraining order. Some instances, I didn't have to go that far, but in some instances, it could be that dangerous. And so you have to be very careful. I would suggest, especially when you've gone through a narcissistic abusive relationship, there's going to be a lot of trauma that you might not even realize. And so get a therapist, because 9 times out of 10, you're going to need it. What you're also going to need is information. When I experienced narcissistic abuse, I went through it for a long time, right? Because I didn't know what a narcissist was at the time. I had no clue. But what helped me to heal, not only just therapy, but what helped me to heal was information. So I read a lot of books, a lot of articles. I watched a lot of experts on YouTube. Not just anybody, but experts on YouTube. I read books on psychology to understand the narcissistic mind. For me, that helped me to understand what I experienced, because you literally feel crazy when you're going through it, because you don't understand what is happening. Thank you, Courtney, for joining. Yeah, thank you. Yes, listen, I'm not only just talking from book knowledge now, I'm talking from personal experience as well. Like, it's such a dark thing. You have to get help. And then one other thing, that when you're going through it, like I said earlier, journal your experiences so that you can write, because they're going to gaslight you a lot and make you doubt your reality, make you doubt the things that you heard, make you doubt the things you saw, and you're going to start to wonder if you're actually crazy and seeing things and hearing things, and that you're the one that's constantly like just misunderstanding. You're not crazy, you're not constantly misunderstanding, you're being gaslighted, you know? So be sometimes you're going to have to even like just turn to your close friends, people that you can trust, and share this, be like, hey, do I sound crazy? Or hey, this and this happened. And because people outside are a lot more sober and can really reason sometimes, and can tell you, hey, that sounds really dark, or that sounds real manipulative, you know what I mean, and validate you and affirm you. Speak to other people who have been through narcissistic abuse, because a lot of the times they're going to have the same experiences, same patterns, the same things were said to them, this, you know. And so you're going to need community when you're trying to get out of this thing. And hopefully you can get out of it real early, and you can see these red flags that I just gave you in the love bombing stage, and you will, and you know, and you can kind of call that a lesson learned and get out real quick. But a lot of the times these guys are so skilled, they've done this for so long. They're so skilled at lying, manipulating, gaslighting, at just knowing how to play with their prey, that it's so hard. Even the experts. I was watching Dr. Ramani, who is, like I said, an experienced psychologist. Dropping nuggets tonight. Yeah, that outside perspective is needed at times. Absolutely. The outside perspective is so important. Even in just regular relationships, sometimes you just need somebody who is outside. You know, there's safety in the multitude of counsel. There is, and sometimes you need someone to speak to just say like, hey, am I crazy for this, or was I wrong for this, or whatever, you know? But I was listening to Dr. Rami in one of her videos where she talks about narcissism, and she talks about, and she's an expert in narcissism, and she talks about how she's had many encounters with narcissists, and she said, she was saying in one of her videos that even recently she had an encounter with a narcissist, and she had gotten got by a narcissist, and she was like, oh man, like, how does this happen to me? And she's a whole expert, and that blew my mind. And she said, but the worst part that sometimes a narcissist can leave you feeling, they can leave you feeling like ashamed of the fact that you believed, and that you got, and that they managed to pull the wool over your eyes for so long. And that guilt and that shame can eat away at you. You should never be ashamed, and just please take this in. You should never be ashamed of someone abusing you. You should never take the blame for someone abusing you, because they chose because you didn't see it. Okay, yeah, you can learn from it. You can say, well, what was in me that helped this, what contributed to me being able to stay here this long? What's in me that I need to work on, that I tolerated the abuse, the insults, the devaluation for so long, and work on those things. But it is never your fault that it happened. Be conscious of what areas in yourself you need to work on, but it is still, again, never your fault that you got abused and lied to and manipulated, especially when you have been a genuine person. You know what I mean? So don't take the blame, don't take the shame, don't take the guilt. Just take the lesson, take the lesson, take the information, learn, and do better next time. Okay? And that's where I'm going to end tonight. Narcissism is just such a complex and deep conversation. I only touched the surface tonight with the first cycle in narcissistic abuse, which is love bombing. And you can read so much about this everywhere. I would suggest, if you feel like you're experiencing this, or you're not sure, or you're like, Arian, I don't know if I'm experiencing a narcissist right now, DM me. I will send you some content that you can listen to and just kind of see if this is what you're experiencing. And if you are, I'll give you resources on how to move forward and how to get out, because it's a very dangerous situation that you can be in. So with that said, I'm going to be out on tonight. Hopefully that you've shared this. I hope you enjoyed this. If you have, make sure you send up some hearts, some likes, hit share. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to my channel, The Lifeboat with Absolutely Arian. If you're not on YouTube, you could always go over to my YouTube channel right now. Make sure you subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, and I will see you next week with another Lifeboat Live. We are going to be getting into another life lesson that I have learned along life's journey. Hope you are able to tune in. I will see you next week. Until then, sail on.